There comes a time in every person's life when logic stands like a wall in front of faith, when every reason tells you it's impossible, when every fact screams you can't do it, and in that moment something inside you softly says, "But what if I can?" That whisper, that fragile voice is your belief. It's not built on evidence. It's not supported by data. It's born from something deeper, the human spirit. Because belief begins exactly where reason ends, every dream that ever changed the world was once unreasonable. Every person who broke boundaries was once called crazy. And every miracle that ever happened started with someone refusing to believe what logic told them. The battle between mind and faith, your mind is a protector. It tries to save you from pain, from failure, from disappointment. But faith is a warrior. It's ready to fight against fear, against logic, against the voice of doubt. The mind says, "You don't have the skill." Faith says, "I'll learn." The mind says, "You've failed before." Faith says, "Then I'm wiser now." The mind says, "Be realistic." Faith says, "Reality changes when I do." To believe when reason denies it is not foolishness, it's courage. It's standing in darkness and saying, "I still see the light." When logic fails, vision takes over. If you always depend on logic, you'll live an average life. But if you learn to believe beyond it, you'll live an extraordinary one, because logic can only calculate what is. Belief imagines what can be. Thomas Edison was told electricity couldn't light a city. The Wright brothers were told man would never fly. Malala was told a girl couldn't raise her voice in darkness, and yet they all did what reason denied. They didn't wait for logic to approve their dream. They believed first, and logic followed later. The science of the impossible, even science agrees. Your thoughts shape your biology. Your emotions shape your energy. When you believe something deeply, your brain rewires itself to make it possible. Belief changes how you walk, how you talk, how you act. It becomes your vibration. And the universe, whether you call it destiny or divine order, starts rearranging itself to match that vibration. When you keep saying it's impossible, your brain shuts down creativity. But when you say, "I can find a way," it opens 1,000 doors that reason never saw. When the world calls you crazy, there will be days when people laugh at your belief. They'll say, "Where's the proof?" And you'll have none except the fire inside you. But remember, the greatest proof of faith is persistence. The strongest evidence of vision is patience. The world doesn't believe in you until you make it happen, but you have to believe before it does, because faith doesn't wait for approval, it creates it. How to strengthen belief when reason denies it? Silence the noise, don't argue with doubt, starve it. Remember your why. Logic fades, but purpose ignites. Visualize it every day. See it so clearly that it feels real before it happens. Surround yourself with believers. Doubt is contagious, so is faith. Take one small action. Faith without movement dies in the mind. Talk to yourself like a warrior, not a victim. Every word you speak becomes the bricks of your future. Listen carefully. When reason denies your dream, it's only testing your faith. When logic says you can't, it's waiting for you to answer, "Watch me." The bridge between the possible and the impossible is not built by proof, it's built by belief. So believe it when no one else does. Believe it when you don't yet see it. Believe it until it becomes so real that even reason bows down and says, "I was wrong," because in the end, it's not the logical ones who change the world. It's the believers who refuse to stop. There comes a point in every person's journey when the mind stops believing and the heart starts whispering, a moment when every calculation fails, every plan collapses, and every piece of logic says, "Give up." That's the moment most people surrender, but the rare ones, the destined ones, awaken something divine within. They awaken faith. Faith doesn't begin in light, it's born in darkness. It doesn't rise in clarity, it rises in confusion, because logic lives in the realm of what is, but faith lives in the realm of what can be. And that's why belief feels so unreasonable, so reckless, so hard to defend. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to make change. When logic breaks, faith whispers, "Trust me." When reason walks away, faith steps forward and says, "Now it's my turn." Every story that changed the world began at that exact point, where logic ended. When the Wright brothers decided to fly, logic said, "Man is not made for the sky." When Edison dreamed of light, reason said, "It's impossible." When Malala raised her voice in fear, Logic said, it's too dangerous, but faith, that silent fire inside them, refused to listen. You see, logic protects you from failure, but faith prepares you for greatness. Logic is safe, faith is wild. Logic builds walls, faith builds wings. Logic waits for evidence, faith creates evidence. And that is why so few people ever taste the beauty of their true potential, because they never step beyond what makes sense. There's a secret: life doesn't reward logic, it rewards courage. When you take one step beyond reason, you enter the field where miracles happen. It's that invisible space where the universe begins to cooperate with your will. Things start aligning, people appear, opportunities unfold, not because of logic, but because you believed long enough for reality to adjust itself. The day your logic breaks is not the end. It's the invitation to a higher dimension of power. It's where you stop trying to understand and start learning to trust. It's where you stop needing proof and start building purpose. So when your mind says there's no way, don't argue, smile, because that's when your faith is being invited to the stage. That's the precise moment the impossible becomes possible. Every legend, every visionary, every believer reached a point of absolute uncertainty, but they didn't give up. They understood that when logic breaks, it's not the end of the road, it's the beginning of destiny. So the next time your reason denies your dream, don't shrink. Stand tall, breathe, and whisper to yourself, this is where faith begins, and I begin with it. You think you see the world, but you don't. You only see the world that your mind allows you to see. Your eyes are not just tools of vision, they are mirrors of your beliefs. If you believe you are limited, you'll see walls. If you believe you are powerful, you'll see doors. The world outside you is only a reflection of the world inside you. We are trained to trust what we see, but everything real begins in the unseen. Electricity, gravity, love, hope. You can't see them, but they move worlds. In the same way, your dreams, your faith, your purpose, they all live in that invisible realm that logic can't measure. Reason looks at circumstances, belief looks at possibilities. Reason says this is what is, belief whispers, but this is what can be. You are not trapped by your situation, you are trapped by your perception. A poor person can be rich in vision, and a rich person can be poor in purpose. It's not the conditions that define you, it's your perspective, and perspective is a matter of belief. The world you see when you wake up each morning is a projection of your inner story. Change that story and the whole world begins to shift. If you believe you are unlucky, every event becomes proof of misfortune. But if you believe you are chosen for something greater, even pain begins to feel like preparation. Think about every major discovery in history. Before the telescope, the stars were just dots of light. Before the microscope, the invisible world of life was unknown. Before the internet, connection seemed limited. In every case, the world didn't suddenly expand, our awareness did. The same rule applies to your personal life. Your reality expands only as much as your belief allows it to. There are two kinds of people: those who see what is and call it reality, and those who see what could be and call it destiny. The second kind, the dreamers, the believers, the visionaries, are the ones who move humanity forward, because they dare to believe in worlds not yet visible. They walk through darkness guided by an inner light that only they can see. And that's what faith really is, the ability to see without seeing. So when life looks small, when options seem few, when the horizon feels far, remember this: you are not looking at the full picture. You are only looking through the lens of your current belief, and that lens can change today. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the life you want. There's a voice that lives inside every human mind, a voice that questions, warns, and whispers. What if you fail? It's not your enemy, but it often becomes one when you start to listen too closely. That voice is doubt, and doubt, my friend, is loud. It doesn't come softly, it roars with confidence. It speaks in logic, statistics, and painful memories. It says, you've tried before and failed. Why try again? It says, people like you don't make it that far. It says, be realistic. And because doubt speaks the language of reason, most people believe it. They confuse familiarity with truth. Just because you've heard a voice for years doesn't mean it's telling you what's real. Sometimes it's just repeating your fears. Doubt has a purpose. It tries to protect you from disappointment, but in protecting you from failure, it also protects you from greatness. It builds a cage out of caution and calls it safety. And sadly, most people live their whole lives inside that cage, decorating Walls with excuses, never realizing the door was open all along. You cannot silence doubt with logic, because doubt is logic. You silence it with faithful action, when you move even when afraid. Your actions speak louder than that voice. Each step you take in faith turns down the volume of fear. Remember this, courage is not the absence of doubt, it's the decision to act despite it. Bravest people you know were not doubt-free, they were just doubt-defiant. They heard the same voices you do, but they answered differently. When doubt said, "You can't," they said, "Watch me." Every great invention, every movement, every victory was once surrounded by 1,000 doubts. But what makes a believer different is that they don't argue with the noise, they outgrow it. They keep walking until their results become the reply. You see, doubt has no power over motion. It feeds on hesitation. It grows stronger in your pauses and weaker in your persistence the moment you move. Even trembling, even unsure, you weaken its grip, because progress and doubt cannot live in the same place. There will be nights when your own mind becomes your battlefield. You'll hear your fears louder than your dreams, but those moments are sacred. They're the training ground of faith. Each time you rise above doubt, your inner voice becomes clearer, stronger, purer. So don't fight doubt. Understand it. It's not your destiny speaking. It's your history trying to protect itself. Thank it for its concern, then walk past it. And as you move forward, remember, the voice of doubt is loud but not always right. Sometimes it's just afraid of the person you are about to become. Most people wait for the right feeling before they act. They say, "When I feel confident, I'll start. When I feel ready, I'll believe." But that's the biggest lie doubt ever told you, because faith doesn't wait for feelings. Faith is a decision, not an emotion. Feelings are fragile. They rise and fall with your circumstances. One good day, you're unstoppable. One bad day, you question everything. If your belief depends on emotion, then your faith will always be temporary, as unstable as the weather. But when your belief is rooted in decision, no storm can move it. Faith is not the warmth you feel when everything goes right. It's the fire you light when everything goes wrong. It's the choice to say, "I still believe," when your heart feels empty. It's looking at failure and saying, "You don't define me." It's waking up in pain and deciding to rise anyway. You see, decisions shape destiny far more than feelings ever will. Every great person you admire, they didn't wait for comfort, they chose conviction. Nelson Mandela didn't feel powerful during his 27 years in prison. He decided to remain unbroken. Mother Teresa didn't feel ready to face suffering. She decided that love was stronger than fear. Faith is never about what you feel, it's about what you choose. There will be moments when your emotions betray you. You'll feel weak, alone, unseen. You'll feel like your prayers aren't working, your efforts don't matter, and your dream is slipping away. But in those exact moments, right there, faith is asking you, do you still choose me? And when you answer yes, even with trembling lips, something powerful happens. You shift from emotional survival to spiritual authority. You stop being controlled by circumstances and start commanding them. That's what faith does. It gives you control over chaos. It turns confusion into clarity, pain into purpose, and waiting into preparation. Because once you decide to believe, truly decide, the universe rearranges itself around your conviction. The truth is, faith doesn't need proof, it creates it. Faith doesn't need comfort, it builds it. Faith doesn't depend on what you see. It depends on who you choose to be. So, when your emotions collapse and your motivation fades, stand firm. Don't ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Ask yourself, what do I decide right now? Because faith is not a mood you wait for, it's a stand you take. And the moment you take that stand, heaven itself takes notice. The people who rise in this world are not the ones who always feel strong, they are the ones who keep deciding to believe, even when everything inside them screams, don't. So decide today, not because you feel it, but because you choose it. That's where real faith begins. There comes a stage in every believer's journey when the crowd disappears. When the cheers fade, the applause ends, and you find yourself standing alone with nothing but your thoughts and your faith. It feels unfair, it feels heavy, but that's exactly where real belief is born. Isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. The truth is, belief that depends on support is not belief, it's comfort. Anyone can have faith when people agree with them, when life flows smoothly, when the path is clear. But true faith reveals itself when the path turns dark, when no one claps for you, and when even reason seems to leave your side. In that silence, you meet yourself. In that loneliness, you learn who you really are. Because when the noise stops, the soul starts to speak. And sometimes the only voice you'll hear is the one that says, keep going. History's greatest minds, prophets, and visionaries all walked through isolation. Moses had the desert. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had the cave. Jesus had the wilderness. Buddha had the forest. Every soul that carried divine light had to first face divine silence. You see, solitude is a sacred classroom. It teaches you strength that crowds can never teach. When nobody believes in you, you learn to believe in yourself. When no one supports you, you learn to walk with unseen hands. When no one understands your vision, you learn to trust your inner guidance. Isolation strips you of illusions, of who you think you are, of who the world told you to be. It takes away your comfort so it can replace it with clarity, and though it hurts, it's the birthplace of transformation. The seed must be buried alone in darkness before it grows into a tree. The diamond must endure pressure and isolation before it shines, and you must endure your season of silence before your voice changes the world. Don't curse your loneliness, don't run from it, use it, listen in it, grow through it, because in that space something powerful is happening. Your belief is being tested, purified, and reborn. When you finally walk out of isolation, you will not be the same person who entered it. You will be sharper, calmer, deeper. You'll stop chasing validation because you'll carry your own approval inside you. You'll stop seeking company just to feel whole, because you'll realize wholeness was within you all along. So if you're in that silent chapter right now where no one claps, no one calls, no one seems to care, understand this. You are not being abandoned, you are being refined. And when you come out, you will no longer need to prove your belief. Your life itself will become the proof. Because faith that survives isolation doesn't just believe, it becomes truth. People will question you. They'll laugh, doubt, and whisper, be realistic. But remember, logic always arrives late to the party of faith. It never sees the future, it only studies the past. And by the time logic understands what you are doing, it's already done. Belief is the seed and logic is the fruit. But too many people wait for the fruit before planting the seed. They want proof before they believe. Results before effort, guarantees before courage. That's not how creation works. The universe doesn't respond to hesitation, it responds to conviction. Everything that has ever transformed humanity began as something illogical. Electricity, impossible. Flight, ridiculous. Digital connection across continents, absurd. And yet, the world you're living in today is built entirely by people who refuse to let logic decide what was real. Belief doesn't ignore logic, it transcends it. It moves ahead of reason, pulling the future closer until reason has no choice but to follow. That's the secret. Logic doesn't lead faith. Faith leads logic. You see, when you believe long enough, something remarkable happens. Reality begins to bend. Opportunities begin to appear. People start to show up. Coincidences become patterns. And slowly, what once seemed impossible starts looking inevitable. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you changed your vibration, your focus, your energy. You kept believing until reality caught up with your faith. There's a divine timing in this. When you believe, you enter a silent contract with destiny. It watches how long you can hold that vision, how much you can trust without evidence, how deeply you can stand when nothing around you supports you. And when your belief outlasts your logic, that's when miracles happen. The world often teaches patience as waiting, but real patience is believing without proof. It's the ability to keep your faith alive even when nothing seems to move. Every delay, every rejection, every detour is not proof against your dream, it's proof that your dream is being refined. And here's the beauty: when your moment comes, when your vision finally manifests, the same people who once doubted you will call you lucky. They won't realize it wasn't luck, it was loyalty to your belief. You simply stayed faithful long enough for logic to understand. So never rush to prove yourself, never beg logic for permission. Let your consistency do the talking. Let your results be the argument. Because belief is not about being right instantly, it's about being faithful endlessly. Hold the vision long enough, walk in the dark long enough, speak the dream long enough, and one day, reason itself will bow before your persistence and whisper, "You were right all along." That's when you'll know Your belief didn't just survive time, it created it.